The humans had never planned to be part of this war. They came to help build peace, fix broken systems, and offer medical aid. But on the alien planet HFY, peace was a word no one believed in anymore. And now, one human was caught in the middle of something far stranger than war. Eli Carter, a communication tech from Earth, never thought he'd be anywhere near a battlefield. He didn't even carry a weapon. His job was to fix translation towers, repair language modules, and try not to get in anyone's way. But today, that plan failed. Badly. He was running through an alien city, smoke rising behind him. Sirens screamed above. Massive gunships flew low, and soldiers in silver armor stormed the streets. Eli ducked behind a pillar, panting. "I'm not even trained for this," he whispered to himself. His translator unit buzzed in his ear. "Warning, you are entering a classified sector. Unapproved personnel will be detained." "Too late for that," he muttered. Suddenly, a shadow moved in front of him. He looked up and froze. A tall alien woman stood there. Red skin, silver-white hair, piercing violet eyes, and a full black combat suit with glowing armor plates. Commander Zara of Clan Threx, the most feared elite on this side of the war, and she was looking straight at him. Eli raised his hands slowly. "I'm just a tech, no threat." Zara didn't respond. She stepped closer. He expected a gun, a threat, maybe a punch. Instead, she smirked and said in perfect English, "You've been matched with me, human. Your romantic duties start now." Eli blinked. "What?" She didn't repeat herself. Instead, she reached out, grabbed his wrist gently but firmly, and pulled him to his feet. "What do you mean matched? I didn't— Wait, romantic what?" Zara activated a holographic scroll from her wristband. A glowing symbol appeared, a mark he'd never seen before. Then, his own wrist buzzed. He looked down. His translator device flashed a new icon. Match confirmed. Bond locked. Eli stared in disbelief. "You've got to be kidding me." Zara leaned in close, her eyes glowing slightly. "It is tradition. I saved your life. You are now mine. And you are cute enough." Eli almost laughed, but her tone told him this was not a joke. "Okay, hold on. I'm a human. You're whatever you are. I didn't agree to this." She tilted her head. "Consent was granted when you entered sacred territory." "I was running for my life." Zara's smirk faded. "You were brave. You didn't hide. You reached for the wounded." Child before the blast, Eli froze. "How did you—" "I watched you. That was your test." Eli swallowed. "This is insane." She nodded. "Yes, but now we are bound. You will sleep in my chamber, dine with my war sisters, and perform your required emotional roles." Coughed. "Emotional roles?" She grinned. "You will understand tonight." The gunfire in the distance was growing louder, but Eli's heart was beating faster than any explosion. He didn't know what kind of war this was anymore. But he had just become a prize in it. Eli didn't even know where he was anymore. The alien dropship flew fast across the sky. Below them, the burning city faded into mountains and strange glowing forests. Inside the ship, Commander Zara stood silent, arms crossed, watching him. He didn't speak. He was still trying to process her words. Matched. Romantic duties. Mine. How was this real? The ship landed at a large stone fortress built into a cliff. Purple flags waved in the wind, and giant armored warriors stood guard. All had red or dark violet skin. All were tall, and all were female. Eli gulped. The guard saluted Zara and stepped aside. She nodded and motioned for him to follow. "You will stay in the bond house." "Bond house?" "It's where newly claimed partners are kept. Until the union is proven strong." Eli nearly tripped. "Claimed? Union? Look, I think there's a huge misunderstanding." Zara stopped and turned around slowly. "I chose you. The bond mark confirms it. You are mine now." Eli raised his hands. "Okay, sure, but I'm not even from this planet." Zara leaned in, her eyes glowing slightly. "Good. That makes you rare. desired, more precious. Eli muttered under his breath. I liked it better when no one noticed me. Inside the bond house, everything was warm, soft, and glowing. Fabric walls, hanging lights, fragrant steam rising. From carved stone bowls, it felt more like a spa than a military base. Zira handed him a smooth black outfit. What's this? Bond wear, she said. You will wear it when you dine with me. He stared at it. It's see-through. She raised an eyebrow. Yes, that is tradition. Eli blinked. Not on Earth, it isn't. Zara turned to leave. You may rest. I will return before sunset. As soon as she was gone, Eli sat on the edge of the floor mat, sighing. I'm stuck in a romance prison, he whispered. His translator beeped again. Bond activation, level 1 complete. Emotional compatibility pending. Physical closeness. Required within 48 hours. He stared at the device. Oh no. No, 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 no. Later that evening, soft drums echoed through the fortress. Zara returned, now wearing a flowing red and silver cloak instead of her armor. Her long white hair was braided. Her skin shimmered under the light. Eli swallowed hard. Hi, she smiled. Come, we eat. He followed her into a long hall where other matched pairs were sitting. All alien women, all human or non-military species, all very close to their partners. Zara took his hand and guided him to a cushion beside her. Now, she said, you begin your role. He glanced around nervously. Which is, she leaned close to his ear. Make me feel something. Eli's brain stopped working. He couldn't tell if she meant emotions, or something much more intense. So like any confused human, he panicked and complimented her boots. Zara blinked, then smiled. Your heart speaks before your mind. I like that. The other warriors laughed. One winked at Zara. You picked a bold one, Zara smirked. He offered no fight. That means his soul is ready, Eli quietly whispered. My soul is screaming, actually. But even as the night went on and the candles dimmed, something strange happened. He didn't feel like a prisoner anymore. Zara didn't treat him like a slave. She treated him like he mattered. She listened. She laughed. She brought him food. He could eat. She didn't rush anything. And for the first time, Eli began to wonder, what if this bond wasn't a mistake? Eli didn't sleep much. The bond house was quiet, but his thoughts weren't. He stared at the ceiling, replaying the night. Zara's smirk, the feast, the attention, the glowing bond mark on his wrist. He was matched. Chosen. But was it real, or a trap? Early the next morning, Zara entered his room. She was wearing ceremonial armor now, polished black with silver trim and a strange crest on her shoulder. She looked serious. It is time, she said. Time for what? The vow ceremony. Eli sat up fast. Wait, like a wedding? Zara tilted her head. Not quite. But if you do not complete the vow, the bond breaks, and you are no longer protected. Protected from what? She stared at him, then said quietly, from everyone else. Eli followed her through the fortress to a round stone courtyard. Aliens filled the space, warriors, elders, and several other matched pairs. At the center stood a flame pit, glowing blue. Zira stood tall. Eli stood awkwardly. A deep voice echoed across the courtyard. A judge, maybe. His translator kicked in. The bond has been started. The fire has seen it. Let it now hear the vow, or let it end. Zara stepped forward. Her voice was calm but strong. I vow protection, honor, and my name. I claim this human not as property but as purpose. Gasps came from the crowd. Apparently those words were rare. Eli's heart thumped. Everyone turned to him. He didn't have a speech. Didn't know the words. He looked at Zara, fierce, glowing, fearless. Then he looked at the fire and said softly, I didn't ask for this, but You stood with me. So I vow to walk beside you, not because I must, but because you made me want to. Silence. Then the fire flared high, glowing white for a second. The crowd roared in approval. The vow was accepted. Zara smiled, but there was something new in her eyes. Pride, and maybe a touch of affection. She placed her hand on Eli's chest. You didn't run. I thought about it. You still stayed. That's the scary part. Later, as they walked back to her chamber, Eli finally asked the question burning in his mind. What happens if I'd refused? Zara answered without stopping. Another warrior would have claimed you. Many were watching. Eli blinked. And that would be worse? Much. Why? She stopped and turned to face him. Because not all warriors bond with kindness. Her voice lowered. And once the bond mark is open, you cannot fight back. Eli didn't reply. He simply looked at his wrist, where the faint blue mark still glowed, a symbol of a choice he didn't make, but one he had now completed. That night he sat across from Zara as she removed her armor. Why me? He asked quietly. There were stronger men, smarter ones. Zara looked up. But none were brave in the storm. You acted with instinct. Not orders. Eli nodded slowly. She reached over and touched his wrist. Now you are one of us. Eli had expected something strange. He had expected Zara to ask him to fight or train or maybe even something more intense. After all, the vow ceremony was over. The bond mark had glowed. He was officially hers. But what she asked next was not what he expected. That evening, as the twin moons rose over the cliff fortress, Zara returned to their shared chamber. Her expression was calmer than usual, her cloak dusted with golden sand from the outer patrol. She removed her armor in silence, then looked at him and said quietly, "Sit with me." Eli blinked. "Just sit?" She nodded. So he did. They sat cross-legged, on soft fabric mats facing each other. A small steam bowl sat between them, filling the air with a sweet, earthy smell. Zara reached into a box beside her and pulled out a tiny object. It looked like a carved stone with lines running across it. She handed it to him. "I want to hear your story," she said. Eli tilted his head. "My story?" "Yes," she said. "Before this, before the war, before me. Tell me who you were, so I can understand who you are." He stared at her. For the first time since they met, she looked vulnerable, not weak, not afraid, just genuinely curious. He smiled softly. "Well," he said, "on Earth I fixed broken things. Mostly tech, communications gear. I wasn't special. I kept my head down." Zara watched him closely. "I never got chosen for anything big," he continued. "Not in school, not in life. This mission was supposed to be quiet, just repairs." He chuckled dryly. "And now I'm matched to the fiercest alien I've ever seen." Zara's lips curved. "You still don't see what I see." Eli looked up. "What do you see? You have no claws, no armor? But when the building exploded, you ran toward the flame. You shielded a child not your own, no orders, no reward." She leaned forward. "That is not weakness. That is rare." Eli felt his chest tighten. No one had ever said something like that to him before. Zara lifted the steam bowl between them and set it aside. Then she reached for something else, a small silver ring carved from bone-like crystal. She didn't offer it to him. She placed it beside his foot. "In my culture," she said, "this is not a demand. It is an invitation." Eli looked at it, then at her. "What's the invitation?" Zara's voice lowered. "Sleep beside me tonight. Not as duty, not as warrior and bondmate, but as one who chooses." Eli hesitated, then nodded once. "Quiet. No drama. No fear, I'll stay." That night she laid beside him under soft alien furs. No words, no tension, only silence and warmth. Zara did not hold him, but she left her hand near his, close enough that their fingers could touch if either one moved even slightly. Eli didn't sleep much, not because he was afraid, but because, for the first time since leaving Earth, he felt wanted. The next morning started quietly. Zara had already left for duty. Eli woke up in the bond house alone, wrapped in warm furs, still unsure if everything happening was real or some strange dream that hadn't ended. He touched his wrist. The bond mark was still glowing, faint, but steady. He was still hers. After a simple breakfast of dried fruit and protein cubes, a knock came at the door. When Eli opened it, a tall, sharp-eyed alien woman stood there. She looked nothing like Zara. Her skin was a deep violet, and her armor was gold and red. Royal. She didn't smile. "Human," she said coldly. "I am Commander Yisayan of Clan Velth. Come with me, now." Eli blinked. "Why?" "You are bonded to Zara of Threx," she said. "But I challenge the bond." Before Eli could protest, 2 guards appeared behind her, not hostile, but firm. They escorted him to the dueling ring in the center of the fortress. A crowd had gathered. Zara stood at the far end, fists clenched, jaw tight. Eli was brought to the center. "What is this?" he whispered. Zara spoke without taking her eyes off Yisayan. "She wants to take you." Eli froze. "Take, as in?" Yisayan stepped forward. "I claim the right of superiority," she declared. "If I defeat Zara in combat, the bond will transfer. I will take her mate." Gasps echoed. Eli felt cold. He looked at Zara. "You can say no, right?" Zara shook her head. "I can only fight. Or surrender." Eli grabbed her wrist. "You don't have to fight for me." She looked him in the eyes. "You are not a prize," she said. "But in our world, bonds must be defended." She stepped into the ring. The fight was fast and brutal. Zara moved like lightning, blocking and striking, her body glowing with energy. Yisayan was stronger, maybe faster, but Zara fought like the bond itself gave her power. Eli didn't cheer. He watched with his heart in his throat, not because he feared for himself, but because, somewhere deep down, he didn't want to lose her. Then, with one final move, Zara flipped Yisayan over her shoulder and slammed her to the ground. The ring glowed. The match was over. Zara stood above her, breathing hard. "You will not touch him," she said coldly. Yisayan rose slowly, face bruised but proud. "You are stronger than I expected," she admitted. "Your bond is real." Then she looked at Eli. "You are unusual human. You make warriors fight with heart. That is dangerous." She left without another word. Eli ran to Zara as the crowd began to cheer. She held her ribs and winced. "You see, you are trouble." He smiled and held her arm. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes," she whispered. "I did." He helped her walk. She leaned close and said, "Tonight I won't ask you to share warmth, but I will ask for your voice. Tell me more of Earth, of what you miss." Eli nodded. "I will." That night he told her everything. About his dog. About snow. About how Earth didn't have glowing duels for romance. Zara laughed, and when she finally slept beside him, she whispered something in her own language. He didn't understand it, but he felt it, like a promise. 2 days passed since the duel, and peace had returned on the surface. Zara's ribs were healing. The fortress buzzed with new visitors, and Eli was finally getting used to eating bright blue noodles for breakfast. But that morning a message came. Zara opened it. Her eyes darkened. "The High Council has summoned us." Eli sat up on the edge of their shared bedroll. "Summoned? Why?" "They want to question our bond, officially." "After everything we've done?" Zara met his eyes. "They don't care what we feel. They care what it looks like to the clans." The council hall was made of white stone, glowing veins of green light running through the walls. Ancient carvings lined the room. Stories of warriors, sacrifices, and great matings that had changed history. Eli stood beside Zara, dressed in his cleanest uniform. He felt small, nervous, but he didn't step back. Across from them, 5 elder aliens sat like statues. The middle one, Elder Valshera, spoke. "Commander Zara, you have matched a human. You fought for him. You defended the bond. But now we ask, what is your long-term intent?" Zara answered calmly. "I seek recognition. I seek to complete the final rite." Gasps filled the hall. Eli frowned. "What's the final rite?" Valshera looked at him coldly. "It means she seeks to name you her life partner, permanent, unbreakable." Eli's breath caught. They weren't just matched anymore. This was something much deeper. "But he is human," Valshera continued. "He cannot birth children. He cannot train in war. What strength does he bring to our bloodline?" Eli stepped forward before Zara could answer. "I don't have claws or armor, but I have choice. And I chose to stay. I chose to learn. I chose to sleep beside her without fear." He looked at Zara. "She never forced me. She let me choose her." The elders whispered. Valshera studied him. "Would you give your earth rights away for her?" Eli didn't hesitate. "I already did." Silence stretched. Then Valshera leaned back. "You speak as one who knows pain, and still gives." She turned to Zara. "Very well. You may complete the final rite, but under one condition." Zara's hands clenched. "Name it." Valshera's eyes glowed faintly. "You must let him lead in your place for one cycle. Let the clans see his worth. Alone." Eli blinked. "Wait, me? Lead what?" "You will command her warband. Without her, beside you. If they follow, you keep your place." Zara looked torn. Eli whispered, "Don't fight this, I'll try." She stared at him, then nodded once. "I trust him." Outside, as the sun set, Eli exhaled deeply. "You sure this is smart?" Zara placed a hand on his shoulder. "The council tests us. If you survive this, they will never question you again." Eli smirked nervously. "No pressure." Zara smiled faintly. "Lead them as you led me, without fear. That is enough." Eli had never commanded anything before. Not a team, not a battle unit, not even a classroom presentation without stuttering. But now, he stood before 12 alien warrior women, all bigger, stronger, and far more experienced than him. They stared in silence, arms crossed, their expressions unreadable. Zara was gone, sent away per the council's order. Now, it was his test. He cleared his throat. "I know what this looks like," he began. "A small human with no claws or combat rank, standing where your commander should be." He stepped forward. "You don't need to follow me because I'm stronger, I'm not. You don't need to follow me because of tradition either. I'm not one of you." The room stayed quiet. "But if you give me one chance, I'll earn your respect like I earned hers, by acting when it counts." There was a long silence. Then one warrior stepped forward. Her name was Talek. Broad shoulders, facial scars, and an axe across her back. She looked down at him. "If you lead, where do we go?" Eli took a breath. "There's a supply drop too. Clicks west of the valley. Enemy scouts have been spotted there. If we reach it first, we secure the ridge for our side." Another warrior asked, "And what if it's an ambush?" Eli smirked. "Then we improvise. I'm good at that." They moved. Eli rode in the middle of the formation, giving orders calmly through the translator. He didn't shout. He didn't pretend to be a hero. He listened. He watched how the warriors moved, how they signaled, how they respected silence and instincts more than noise. By the time they reached the drop zone, they were ready, and yes, it was an ambush. Eli didn't panic. He saw the trap forming through the heat signatures. Instead of charging in, he ordered a feint left, drawing the enemy forward, then circled a small squad around for a flank strike. It worked, clean, quick. No casualties. When they returned to the fortress, the warband didn't cheer. They just nodded, one by one, simple, quiet, real respect. The council called another meeting. Eli stood before them again. Valshera asked, "Did they follow you?" Zara appeared from the side chamber. Tulek stepped forward and said aloud, "He led. Not with power, with sense, with instinct, with heart. He is not just a mate, he is a commander." Zara smiled. The council gave their answer. The bond is confirmed. Permanent. Final right accepted. That night, back in their chamber, Zara looked at him with something softer than pride. "I never imagined this would happen," she said. Eli leaned back. "Me neither. I came here to fix wires." "You fixed more than that." He looked down, at his hand, at the faint glowing mark. "I guess I'm yours now. For real." Zara shook her head. "No, Eli. We are each other's." She reached into a black box at her bedside and pulled out a new ring. Clear crystal shaped like a star. She placed it in his palm. "This is not alien or human," she said. "It's us." He smiled. "Now, about those romantic duties." Zara raised an eyebrow. "They begin with a bath and continue with silence." Eli laughed. "I can handle both." Outside, the stars glowed above the alien fortress. Inside, a bond stronger than tradition had formed, not by force, not by fate, but by choice together.